150 South Carolina National Guard soldiers are expected to deploy to the southern border tomorrow. The soldiers will be assisting Texas National Guard soldiers to observe and report to their superiors as needed.
We start tonight at the border shutdown, and the clock is ticking in Texas. The Lone Star State has until midnight to stop blocking federal Border Patrol agents from accessing part of the southern border.
The sudden deployment of the U.S. Army in Texas has shocked many, turning local tensions into national headlines. This footage, now viral, reveals deep divisions and urgent concerns about national security and immigration. Let's break down why it happened, the fallout, and explore what it means for the future. Join us to witness the situation at the Texas border, where every frame of the footage tells a part of the larger story. Now, let's see where it all began. The U.S. has seen a significant rise in illegal border crossings, particularly in Texas, since January 2021. Data shows over 6.3 million encounters, with almost 4 million in Texas alone. This growth has stretched the Border Patrol thin, pushing Texas to respond. In March 2021, Governor Greg Abbott launched Operation Lone Star.
They're here to both tour the border, to tour what we're doing with the buoys in the border, as well as they are deploying military and our law enforcement officers to help Texas secure the border.
This initiative deployed the Texas National Guard and Department of Public Safety to strengthen border security. The aim was to curb the flow of illegal immigrants into Texas. However, this move created friction between Texas forces and the federal Border Patrol. A major point of conflict was the Texas National Guard's use of concertina wire along the border. While Texas saw the wire as a necessary barrier, the Border Patrol argued it hampered their patrol efforts, especially in regions susceptible to migrant drownings in the Rio Grande. Despite intentions to aid migrants in danger, disagreements on the wire's management fueled ongoing disputes. The situation at the Texas border is part of a broader narrative of immigration challenges facing the United States. The state of Texas, sharing a lengthy border with Mexico, has historically been at the epicenter of the immigration debate. Factors contributing to the current crisis include economic disparities, political instability, and violence in Central and South American countries, driving an unprecedented number of migrants to seek asylum or economic opportunities in the U.S. But how has the government dealt with this? The federal government's approach to handling the surge has varied over administrations, oscillating between stricter enforcement and more lenient policies. This inconsistency, coupled with legal loopholes and lengthy asylum process backlogs, has worsened the situation. Local communities along the border have reported increased strain on resources, leading to heightened tensions and calls for immediate action. In response to these ongoing challenges, Texas has undertaken initiatives independent of federal actions, asserting a more aggressive stance on border security. This includes significant investments in surveillance technology, such as drones and cameras, aimed at deterring illegal crossings and drug trafficking. Texas has also engaged with other states, seeking support and resources to manage the border crisis collectively, reflecting a growing frustration with federal inaction. The demographic shifts in border towns, economic impacts on local industries, and the humanitarian concerns raised by migrant camps have further complicated the situation. These elements contribute to a volatile environment, ripe for the kind of dramatic actions and responses captured in the recent viral footage. The viral footage and its implications. What triggered such a strong military response, and how has the world reacted? The footage capturing the U.S. Army's deployment in Texas has rapidly spread across the internet, stirring widespread attention and debate. This incident marks a significant moment, showcasing the federal response to the escalating border crisis. The video begins with the arrival of military vehicles and personnel in the border town, an unusual sight that immediately shows the seriousness of the situation. Soldiers are seen unloading equipment and setting up barriers, a physical display of the federal government's decision to intervene. In detail, the footage shows lines of soldiers in combat gear, methodically unrolling concertina wire along the border's edge. The wire, sharp and imposing, is a clear deterrent, designed to prevent illegal crossings. The footage also captures interactions between soldiers and local law enforcement, illustrating the coordination, or lack thereof, between different authorities. These moments reveal the complexities and tensions inherent in the operation, as federal directives intersect with state and local priorities. Significantly, the viral video doesn't shy away from the human side of the crisis. It shows groups of migrants, some attempting to cross, others watching from a distance, reacting to the sudden military buildup. The contrast between the armed, uniformed soldiers and the civilians highlights the desperate circumstances driving the migration and the bleak response it has caused. So, what kind of reception has this footage received? Well, it is now viral.
This week on 60 Minutes, we are reporting on the crisis at the border.
On the ground!
Specifically, the Texas southern border, and we are focused on something called Operation Lone Star. This past week, both President Biden and former President Trump visited the southern border in Texas.
A border shutdown in El Paso, Texas, as hundreds force their way onto the Paso del Norte International Bridge.
Political pundits, certain individuals, certain groups claiming to be an army of God are coming to our community to spread hate and to spread dissension. And I'm troubled by that, because this is not who we are. So we need this to stop.
The reaction to the footage has been polarized. Supporters of the deployment see the military's involvement as a necessary step, while critics argue that this is an excessive use of force. The viral nature of the footage has amplified these debates, making them part of a national conversation about immigration, security, and human rights. As the video circulates, it becomes a center point for discussions about the balance between enforcement and compassion, the roles of state and federal government, and the broader implications for America's immigration policy. The implications of this footage extend beyond immediate reactions. It has caused a national conversation about the role of the military in domestic affairs, particularly in immigration enforcement, traditionally a civilian law enforcement domain. Questions arise about the legality and ethics of using military forces in such contexts, with implications for the Posse Comitatus Act, which limits the use of federal military personnel to enforce domestic policies. The footage has also drawn international attention, affecting the U.S.'s image abroad. Foreign news outlets and international observers use the video to comment on American domestic policies and the country's approach to human rights. Furthermore, the viral footage highlights the friction between state and federal authorities. Texas's unilateral actions, including the seizure of Shelby Park to prevent Border Patrol access, demonstrate the growing disagreements between state-level responses to immigration and federal strategies. The deployment and the viral nature of the footage also impact future policy discussions and legislative actions. As the footage continues to circulate, it influences public opinion and political stances, potentially shaping upcoming electoral campaigns and legislative priorities. Lawmakers may face increased pressure to address the underlying issues of immigration reform, border security, and the appropriate use of military forces in domestic contexts. Controversies and legal battles. But are these actions legal? And what are the consequences? The deployment of the U.S. Army in Texas and the subsequent erection of concertina wire along the border sparked significant controversy and legal battles between the state and federal government. The core of the dispute lies in the disagreement over border control methods and the legal authority to enforce immigration laws. Texas, under Governor Greg Abbott, initiated Operation Lone Star, citing failures by the federal government to adequately secure the border. As part of this operation, Texas National Guard troops placed concertina wire along the border, aiming to deter illegal crossings. However, this move was met with immediate pushback from the Federal Border Patrol, which argued that the wire hindered their ability to patrol the border effectively and raised humanitarian concerns. What happened next only made things worse. The tension escalated when the Border Patrol began cutting through the wire, leading Texas to file a lawsuit against the federal government. This legal action was a bold step, illustrating the deepening divide on immigration enforcement strategies. The lawsuit sought to prevent the removal of the wire and uphold Texas's right to secure its borders as it saw fit. In response, the federal court initially granted Texas a temporary restraining order, halting the removal of the wire. However, this victory was short-lived as the court later ruled against Texas's request for a temporary injunction pending trial. Not deterred, Texas appealed to the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, which granted an emergency stay, reinstating the temporary restraining order. The legal argument reached a peak when the U.S. Solicitor General filed an application with the Supreme Court to vacate the injunction pending appeal, signaling the high stakes and national importance of the case. This move highlighted the gravity of the dispute and the conflicting perspectives on border security and immigration policy. These ongoing legal battles and the deployment of the U.S. Army highlight the complexities of managing border security, the tensions between state and federal authorities, and the divisive nature of immigration policy in the United States. The controversies continue to unfold, with significant implications for the balance of power, the rule of law, and the future of immigration enforcement in the country. Impact on public opinion and policy. The nation's attention has led to shifts in public opinion and adjustments in legislative priorities. The deployment of the U.S. Army in Texas and the ensuing legal battles have had significant impacts on public opinion and policy. The viral footage showing military personnel and barriers at the border has become a central point, intensifying the national debate over immigration and border security. The public opinion on this footage has been sharply divided. On one side, there is strong support for Texas's actions, particularly among those who view illegal immigration as a critical threat to national security and local economies. They argue that the state's measures, including the deployment of the U.S. Army and the erection of barriers, are necessary steps to protect the border and prevent illegal entries. This perspective is often echoed by conservative politicians and media outlets, reinforcing the view that strict border control is essential. On the other side, critics of the deployment and Texas's legal actions express concerns about human rights and the militarization of the border. They argue that using the military to enforce immigration policies is an extreme response that undermines civil liberties and damages the United States' reputation as a welcoming nation. This viewpoint is shared by many human rights organizations, immigrant advocacy groups, and liberal politicians, who call for more humane and comprehensive approaches to immigration reform. The public debate has influenced policy discussions and legislative agendas. The visible presence of the U.S. Army at the border and the ongoing legal disputes have pushed immigration and border security to the forefront of political discourse. Lawmakers at both state and federal levels face increased pressure to address these issues, leading to proposals ranging from stricter enforcement measures to comprehensive immigration reform. However, this comes with its own set of challenges. The situation has also affected the relationship between state and federal authorities. Texas's unilateral actions and the subsequent legal confrontations have highlighted the tensions between state sovereignty and federal oversight, particularly in areas of national security and immigration enforcement. This has caused discussions about the balance of powers in the United States and the appropriate roles of different levels of government in managing border security and immigration policy. The footage has exposed the realities of the U.S. border crisis, presenting a scene many Americans have never witnessed firsthand. The question now is, will this visual evidence lead to changes in policy and public opinion? Or is it merely the start of a series of similar revelations? Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments below to stay updated with our content. Don't miss out on future videos.